Hey YouTube, this is a doctor coming to you from Park City, Utah. As you saw in the title, we have gotten some results back on internal affairs investigations, and we have a number of things to report on guilty police officers. To get you all caught up, the chronology of this thing, there was an incident on September 29th of last year, 2019, where this coward, tyrant, little bald fake Santa Claus of a man, Jaime Rodrigues, committed several atrocities against myself and my 15-year-old son, which led to charges against me that were dropped within hours. They were all falsified, and this gentleman over here, I use the term loosely, Sergeant Cameron Thor, the god of blunder. He's the supervisor. So they were basically on scene about the same time. Rodrigues came in first, and you can see that in the original videos. And subsequent to that, I filed complaints against Rodrigues. My investigatory process, if you will, is to get the first guy, right? Get the main actor, this bald, evil Santa Claus here. And we got Rodrigues guilty, right? Within a couple months, the cops came back with their internal affairs report, and they found him guilty of 5 things. 1, First Amendment violation, that they call it their policy violation against public recording of law enforcement. I call it a First Amendment violation. We'll address that in federal court. Prisoner management, that was a torture issue with like tight cuffs and twisting. Another one was child-dependent adult safety. He placed my child at risk. He threatened to slam him face first. All that stuff's on the other videos, so you can see that there. So next one was report prep. He lied on his report. I told him he lied on his report, and my videos proved it, as did his body cam. So he got on that. And then city policy, rules of conduct. Just generally, he's an asshole. That's why. Sergeant, let's get back to Thor, because he's a little more interesting. Then we have this guy. I don't know if you guys remember this guy from the video. He's a big oaf we're just a kind of a dumb oaf. His name is Keltsey. I can't believe that's a man's name. Officer Keltsey Ware. What he was found guilty of was recording of police. I call it a First Amendment violation, but they call it their policy. I'll link everybody's emails and stuff. YouTube, you guys have done a wonderful job of keeping the pressure on these guys, pressing hard, as the presser would say. But cops that I've talked to said they've received not that I condone this, but multiple threats against their persons, their bodies, their homes, their themselves. Like, people are freaking pissed. And obviously, with what's going on nowadays, much more of a focus. What this guy Ware did was he came up and grabbed my kid's hand. He chest bumped my kid, a 15-year-old kid. My kid was 25 feet away, recording me being loaded into a police car. And Ware did as he was instructed. I mean, I think that's about all he's capable of, is just blocking a camera. I wouldn't probably put him on much more duty than that. Maybe a VIN check, but I don't think he'd get the numbers right. So Ware was guilty of standing in front of my kid, invading his space, and basically a First Amendment violation. What's infinitely more interesting is Sergeant Cameron Thor. God, these guys' first names, they'd kill me. Thor, the god of blunder. He also tagged along with 3 of Rodrigues' charges, which makes sense. From an investigative standpoint, I'd like to get the first guy, right? And say, okay, well, this guy was busted with 5 things, but his supervisor was standing on his shoulder the whole time, so doesn't that make him guilty of failure to supervise and all those same things? So basically, he got popped for many of those same charges, but the really interesting part was, and this was fed to me through a source, was this January, he was fired. He was shown the door. Bye-bye, Thor. Every cop I've talked to since, and you probably can gather that I'm no shrinking violet. I interview local police all the time, and no one will talk about it. We can't talk about it. So obviously he's not gone on to become the head of security for Microsoft. Let's say that. So right now, let's look at the grand total. We have 2 officers and one sergeant, total of 9 internal policy violations, and a sergeant relieved of duty. Pretty serious stuff here. Understand something, people. This is Park City, Utah. The playground of the rich and famous, home of billionaires, the ultimate paradise, right? And it's all about optics, right? And so the optics here, could not believe how this machine, the city attorney, the chief of police, the mayor, everybody, the city attorney, everybody's trying to quash this thing. The local press won't touch it. I think it's about to break in some more press, but we'll wait for that. But nobody wants to touch it because of the optics. We don't want to make Park City look bad, right? So go back to this. So when I originally requested, when I didn't include the complaint against the request for investigation against the second one, against Thor, Ware, and I also filed against this guy Proctor, which some of you guys might remember was a fairly nice guy. He seemed like a decent human being, but in my book, if you're a decent human being watching other officers commit atrocities and violate federal civil rights laws, you're no better than them, and you're just as guilty as them. It's just you're doing it with a smile on your face and a pleasant demeanor, right? So it's the happy tyrant, if you will. But basically, this is a letter to me from the chief of police, and it's interesting because their process is all screwed up. The first time it went to Internal Affairs when we filed against Rodrigues, Internal Affairs gave me a complete list of all the charges that were, I don't know if I have them here, but he gave me a complete list of all the charges and the specific violations of city code. On my second set of things, I get responded to by the chief of police, right? With outside of the normal process. And it says basically this is about your complaints. This complaint was about the September 2019 incident. On October 9th, we launched an investigation and we investigated everybody, all the cops. With regard to Rodrigues, we got him, right? We know what Rodrigues did. We also looked at Thor, Ware, and Proctor, and they cleared Proctor. I don't think it's right. I'm still going to go after him. But Thor and Ware we have confirmed that Sergeant Thor and Officer Ware violated department policy, right? So, as a result, the entire police department received training with regard to police department policy on public recording. So they had to relearn the First Amendment. More on that later because I've done some stuff. In summary, blah, 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 your recent complaints, we think this is concluded. They basically went back in time from their original investigation, and the chief, instead of the internal affairs guy, handled this one. As such, we consider this matter to be concluded. Not so quick there, Wade. So we go back and, we go back to the chief and we say, hey, this was a Utah, we have a great online public records request, online format. And basically, I asked for everything. All the records of the investigation, when it happened, so on and so forth, any text messages, conversations, emails between mayor, city attorney, everything. So, and then I said at the bottom, and I was informed that Thor was relieved of duty and is no longer an employee of Park City Police. Please provide the reason as to why Thor was relieved of duty, so on and so forth. I know they're going to pull the personnel thing on that one. Anyway, jumping down a little bit, this is my response in regard to Thor and all those guys. I don't know. This isn't even that relevant. But let me go back for a second. So when Carpenter responded to my complaints, he just said, yep, basically. Here, I'll read this for you. It says, the investigation addressed, specifically, the investigation found Sergeant Thor and Officer Ware to have violated department policy. Well, what freaking policy? Like, in my last correspondence from the IA guy, I get a full detailed list of all the stuff, right? In this one, they just go, yeah, we found him guilty of some stuff. And of course, I said, no, I need you to clarify. And so then this is from the city attorney. I get pushed all over these things. It's like a hot potato for these guys. So these were so then I get the city attorney who says, yes, these are the 3 charges that we got Thor on. This is what we got Ware, the big oaf, on. And somewhere in there, they said, oh yeah, please be advised that Thor is no longer with PCPD. Okay, so this brings us to really the present. Right now, so what happens in Park City is that if you're not happy with an internal affairs investigation, there's a citizens review board. Some cities have it. It's good. It's an escalation, and it's a way that people other than the police are investigating the police. And this is, in light of recent events. Dear Chief Carpenter, I'm in receipt of your letter regarding my complaints against the above-named officers. It is truly an unfortunate age we live in where police abuse their powers against the civilian population. Our country is literally burning because of a group of tyrannical officers who murdered a citizen. In your letter, you explain that investigations had already been conducted against these officers and determinations of PCPD violations had been made against Thor and Ware. When I filed the original complaint several months ago, wherein Rodrigues, that's the evil Santa, was found in violation of numerous policies, the actual violations were specified and listed, right? You also state that, I'm going to just paraphrase here. You also state that you consider this matter concluded. I do not. As provided for in Park City Police policy, I call for this to be heard before the Citizens Review Board. I am making this request within the time frame permitted under the policy, and I've emailed, sort of everybody and the attorney and everybody possibly in this whole matter. Anyway, bottom line here, guys, we're getting some justice, and thank you for all of your help. Thank you for all of the pressure that you've done. I've kind of been on and off this thing. I'm a single dad. I'm doing my thing. I'm trying to enjoy my life. I've got a beautiful life. I'm truly blessed. And I despise crooked cops, oath breakers, cowards, tyrants. And here are 3 of them: Ware, Thor, and Rodrigues from Park City, Utah Police Department. We're going to give you all their email addresses and direct phone numbers. And they're guilty. 1 sergeant relieved of duty, 9 internal policy violations, and numerous First and Fourth Amendment violations. We're seeing some justice here. And this is just from the internal investigation. Wait to see what comes when some non-biased people get their eyes on this thing. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate your interest and all your thoughtful comments. Have a nice day.